So, do y'all remember about a year ago when Kanye was going off on everybody in the industry? Right, he was calling everybody out by name. Actually, it was about a year ago today. I think he went off like November 6th, if I remember correctly. So we're about 4 days off from a year, ironically. And he was calling everybody out by name: Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Jay-Z, Charles Barkley.
They try to suppress you, but that's how they try to categorize
They
you.
can't control me. You get what I'm saying? They can control Shaq. They can control Charles Barkley. They can control LeBron James. They can control Jay-Z and Beyonce.
But not you, man.
But they can't control me. You see, it ain't no name I won't name.
Exactly.
It's up.
Not you.
You know what I'm saying? And just for Minister Farrakhan, I love you, but the way you read that, I took that as a slight. You know what I'm saying? I'm taking no disrespect from nobody. So let's get on the phone and let's talk that out. I don't care who you are. I ain't taking no slice from nobody, right? I ain't taking no slice from nobody. It's God. That's the only person that I serve. My mom ain't here. My mama was sacrificed.
Me too.
You understand?
Yeah, I'm Christian.
Michael Jordan, what about him? His daddy, right? Bill Cosby, his son, right? Dr. Dre, his son. You're out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing. Feels like it might be a lot of that in order to control, traumatize. They want to monetize and traumatize.
He was talking about how people had other family members sacrificed and was saying all of this stuff. Well, somebody else that he was calling out during that time period was the owners of these record labels, right? He was saying that there was a small cabal or a small group of Jews that control everything in the entertainment industry, and he said that they're strategically and purposely and intentionally targeting our community and that they're trying to destroy our culture, right? A lot of people overlook that.
Okay, so this right here is a chart of Universal Studios, 20th Century Fox, ABC News, CBS News, Columbia Pictures, Warner Brothers, ESPN Sports, Fox News, Washington Post, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, MTV Music Television, Nickelodeon, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, Comedy Central, NBC Entertainment, Google, what else do we have? Disney, ABC Kids and Family, YouTube, Los Angeles Times, Discovery Network, Paramount Pictures, Facebook, Huffington Post, Yahoo, Marvel, Hulu, Cosmopolitan, Time, Touchstone, Associated Press, Pixar, Miramax, HBO, New York Post, LucasArts, MSNBC, DreamWorks Animation. Now, the thing is, I skipped over maybe about 5 of them because it was just unclear on this list. The red are the executives that are Jewish at these companies.
Well, something else that he talked about was how which I thought was one of the most craziest things that he said and exposed that everybody overlooked. One, by the way, since this is a hot button topic right now and everybody's talking about Diddy, a year ago, Kanye West came out and said that Diddy tried to have him taken out. Like, quite literally, he said Diddy tried to have him taken out. The second thing that he said that I think was even just as crazy, if not even more crazier, believe it or not, and I'm going to explain why, was the screenshot that he exposed from his personal trainer. Here you have on the screen that I'm showing you a text message from Kanye West's personal trainer threatening to send him back to a mental health institution. Why is this so crazy? One, you're a personal trainer. That's not your job, bro. Why is your personal trainer threatening to send you? Second of all, why is he thinking he got that type of power? Third of all, why is anyone on your payroll, any of your staff members, anyone that you're paying, having the courage and the balls to say to you, a billionaire, Grammy Award winning artist, ultra famous person, why are they so comfortable and safe to say these things to you? It makes me wonder, and I'm sure it makes a lot of other people wonder, if this is even your personal trainer to begin with, and instead this is another name that they give him in place of just being your handler, right? A person that is controlling Kanye West, right? And another thing, which leads me to my next topic, MK Ultra. Another thing that Kanye West openly talked about during this time was MK Ultra and the many different forms of MK Ultra. A lot of people don't understand what MK Ultra is and how there's different forms of it. And one of the ways in which people use MK Ultra is by way of medication, right? Using medication to induce the mind state of a person. That's another way that people practice MK Ultra, right? Well, Allie Carter, alleged victim of Diddy, alleged victim of human trafficking, let alone, or more specifically, child trafficking, alleged victim of other celebrities that she's named and that I've covered on this channel already, other politicians that I've named on this channel already, is going to educate us today on MK Ultra, and more specifically the ways in which MK Ultra is practiced in the entertainment industry. And she's name dropping. She's talking about people like Diddy, people like Usher, people like Justin Bieber, and she's telling you how it works, because it's not just about mind control. She's telling you how these people are handed off, how they strategically do it in the industry. And I think this is one of the eye-opening videos I've seen all year, from an educational and an informational standpoint, right? And for those of you who have supported Allie Carter, I salute you. For those of you who are still skeptical and you don't know if you should believe her or not, or you just chosen to not believe her, I'm not even blaming you or bashing you, because I understand that perspective as well. But if there was ever a video that you needed to see where a person was extremely competent, clear-minded, and goes into great details and shows the ins and out of their ability to critically think, this is the video. If you needed any video to convince you that this is not just a crazy person talking, this is the video. This was extremely impressive, extremely insightful, and I'd love to know you all's thoughts. But before we tap into the video, I say, listen, if you're new to the show, please know we're thirsty to grow and to drink some of this water. You can help me out by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. But don't worry, I'm gonna give you a sec to do that before I continue. All right, thank you. All right, without further ado, let's see what Allie talking about.
If there's a round of kids, it's the trafficker. P. Diddy gets a round of kids. Let's say that round of kids had Justin Bieber in it. There's contracts, okay? There's contracts for codes within that person, so they can take a remote and turn that person off. Britney Spears, when they want to. Lindsay Lohan, when they want to. Amanda Bynes, when they want to, okay? So let's say there's a contract for Justin Bieber. When P. Diddy has a hold of Justin Bieber, he now owns half of those codes. If Usher had the same contract and trafficked Bieber out to P. Diddy, okay, Usher and P. Diddy now have parts of Justin Bieber's contract. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if one goes down, the other side of the code has to go down. If there's a property linked to that person, Kevin Hart, because they had something to do with the trafficking of Bieber, then their property will go down, because there's a code to that property. There's a code to everything. Your social security number is like a code. Okay? But depending on the level of MK Ultra, people have auctions for the codes on that person, so they can use a remote to them like a TV and shut them down, turn it up, use somebody else, change it whenever they feel like it. Bookmark it. Trust me. Trust me, bookmark it. Okay? I know it's probably not gonna make sense right now, but bookmark it.
MK Ultra is used, but to get MK Ultra to take hold the way it needs to be, it has to involve satanic ritual abuse, extreme trauma, humiliation, just evil on a level you can't imagine. I don't care what you all think about Trump. I'm not sure what I think about Trump, but he is telling you the truth on a lot of things. You guys just don't understand what he's saying. When he's saying they're eating the cats and dogs, he's preparing your hearts and your minds for the fact that satanic ritual abuse is about to come into the light in a big way. Voodoo is about to come into the light in a big way. Cannibalism is about to come into the light in a big way. All of those things linked to MK Ultra, and it all links to trafficking. Once you have MK Ultra in place, and once you've used satanic ritual abuse to link into the MK Ultra and to program the children, so you can use them as sex slaves or Delta assassins or whatever it is you want them to do, then the trafficking and all those things come into play. But you have to have the base and the foundation first.
Now, despite the fact that this woman just went into great detail and was name dropping people and telling you how they do things in the industry and how they hold things over people's head, and that they're able to, another way in which they're able to control people. But just for those of you, one, who still a little bit lost or hesitant or queasy about how MK Ultra works, and two, for those of you who don't mind a history lesson, I would like to read something off to you from the History Channel, where it talks about the history of MK Ultra. Now, if you don't prefer this part, I would say just skip another 3-4 minutes into the video where we will continue listening to Ali. But for now, I want to read upon this just to give us a little bit more grounding and foundation on what MK Ultra is and where it came from, because it came from the CIA. It says here, on April 10, 1953, Allen Dulles, the newly appointed director of the CIA, delivered a speech to a gathering of Princeton alumni. Though the event was mundane, global tensions were running high. The Korean War was coming to an end, and earlier that week, the New York Times had published a startling story asserting that American POWs returning from the country may have been quote-unquote converted by quote-unquote communist brainwashers. Some GIs were confessing to war crimes like carrying out germ warfare against the communists, a charge that the U.S. categorically denied. Others were reportedly so brainwashed that they had refused to return to the United States at all. As if that weren't enough, the U.S. was weeks away from secretly sponsoring the overthrow of a democratically elected leader in Iran. Dulles had just become the first civilian director of an agency growing more powerful by the day, and the speech provided an early glimpse into his priorities for the CIA. In the past few years, we have been accustomed to hearing much about the battle for men's minds, the war of ideologies, he told the attendees. I wonder, however, whether we clearly perceive the magnitude of the problem, whether we realize how sinister the battle for men's minds has become in Soviet hands, he continued. We might call it in its new form, quote-unquote, brain warfare. Dulles proceeded to describe the Soviet brain perversion techniques as effective, but abhorrent and nefarious. He gestured to the American POWs returning from Korea, shells of the men they once were parroting the communist propaganda they had heard cycle for weeks on end. He expressed fears and uncertainty. Were they using chemical agents, hypnosis, something else entirely? We in the West, the CIA director conceded, are somewhat handicapped in brain warfare. This sort of non-consensual experiment, even on one's enemies, was antithetical to American values, Dulles insisted, as well as antithetical to what should be human values. Fear of brainwashing and a new breed of brain warfare quote-unquote brain warfare terrified and fascinated the American public through the 1950s, spurred by the words of the CIA and the stories of brainwashed GIs returning from China, Korea, and the Soviet Union. Newspaper headlines like New Evil Seen in Brainwashing and Brainwashing versus Western Psychiatry offered sensational accounts of new mind control techniques and technologies that no man could fully resist. The paranoia began to drift into American culture with books like The Manchurian Candidate and The Naked Lunch, playing on themes of unhinged scientists and vast political conspiracies. The idea of brainwashing also provided many Americans with a compelling, almost comforting explanation for communism's swift rise, that Soviets used the tools of brainwashing not just on enemy combatants, but on their own people. Why else would so many countries be embracing such an obviously backward ideology? American freedom of the mind versus Soviet quote-unquote mind control became a dividing line as stark as the Iron Curtain. MK Ultra. 3 days after his speech decrying Soviet tactics, Dulles expressed the beginnings of MK Ultra, a top-secret CIA program for quote-unquote covert use of biological and chemical materials. American values made for good rhetoric, but Dulles had far grander plans for the agency's Cold War agenda. MK Ultra's quote-unquote mind control experiments generally centered around behavior modification via electroshock therapy, hypnosis, polygraphs, radiation, and a variety of drugs, toxins, and chemicals. These experiments relied on a range of test subjects, some who freely volunteered, some who volunteered under coercion, and some who had absolutely no idea they were involved in a sweeping defense research program. From mentally impaired boys at a state school, to American soldiers, to quote-unquote sexual psychopaths at a state hospital, MK Ultra's programs often preyed on the most vulnerable members of society. The CIA considered prisoners especially good subjects, as they were willing to give consent in exchange for extra recreation time or commuted sentences. And this is especially important because when you think about all the alleged celebrities in the industry that people, have said are or have been placed under MK Ultra, people like, I don't know, Kodak Black, who has been in and out of prison, people like a Gucci Mane, right? You got people like Amanda, Biles, you got what, Britney Spears, or even the guy from the Disney Channel, Orlando Brown. You got all these different people, Kanye West himself, who people have alleged have been placed under MK Ultra based on their behavior change and just some of the weird things they've done over the years, right? So before we continue, I just want to go ahead and tap into the next thing that Ally Carter said because I think it's very important.
But some of you have not seen it and some of you didn't know what you were looking at. I'm a survivor of abuse, trafficking, foster care, and so much more.
MK Ultra.
That has been since I was 3 months old. CPS reports are endless. CPS reports, even though they had bruises, they had proof. At one point, my surrogate was selling tapes to law enforcement from the back of her closet after she was abusing me and her other kids. You'll see a lot in the paperwork that it was evaluated out at 4 years old. Was the first time I was without drugs, without anything. That's the first time I was like, oh, okay. I was locked in a room because I fought back. And then after her and her boyfriend did what they wanted to me, they put me out in the driveway in Ritchie Canyon. Nobody did anything. When it was taken to court, it was evaluated out. At a very young age, I always thought, what is wrong with me? That stuff keeps happening to me. It's my fault. By 13 years old, I started to ask questions and I started to run. I started to fight back. I started to see that something wasn't right. I thought everything was normal for a very long time. Till about 13 years old, I was hypersexual after being raped so many times by my surrogate's boyfriends, in and out of problems. At one point, I tried to kill myself because I thought that was the only way out. I did everything because I was just like, there's no other way for me besides being somebody's puppet, punching bag, and slave. So I tried to kill myself. 14 and a half, 15. I ended up with so many CPS reports, so many suicide attempts, so much that finally, after going to Canyon Ridge Hospital for over a month, they decided to put me in foster care. When I went into foster care, I thought everything was going to be fine. We were going to be good. I was going to go to school. I would be loved. I would meet a new family and live happily ever after. No. Jumped into things. Went to so many foster homes, group homes, I lost count. Never stayed anywhere longer than 2 to 3 weeks. Never stayed anywhere longer than a month. Attended 19 high schools in 1 year in the time that I was in foster care. I graduated 2 weeks before my class. Thank you very much. Ha ha. I wasn't supposed to. I walked into California school district with like 12 units as a senior. And if you know anything about credits out here, Or not out here. I'm not in California right now, but in California, in the US, I know there's some of you who are from different countries. Thank you, by the way. You need, I think, 230 or 260 to graduate as a senior. I didn't have that, and it wasn't going to work. And everybody kept telling me, I had one of my teachers from my school tell me I was pretty enough to become a cocktail waitress or Hooters, so I should just give up while I was ahead. I ended up graduating 2 weeks before my class because my mom pushed me, because I finally went home. But it is a long story, because I went from 15 years old to so many foster and group homes to small trafficking, getting in a car, doing little stuff with people because they told me to, because I was very naive and just looking for peace and for somebody to love me. And then I went into elite trafficking. At 16 and a half, I was auctioned to Russia. At that moment, I realized I'm not coming back. I was sold to the man for a weekend, and I was supposed to go with him for a week. And in that small time that I was with this man, I was like, he hates Americans. And I didn't understand at that time. I was 15. I did not understand what that meant for people out of the country. I was taken out of the country while in foster care, custody. Everything was different. The smells were different. The street signs, the doors, the walls, everything was just different. And I thought, like, God, if I could just please go back to the States, I swear I will get away from this man. I will figure something out. He treated me. I knew that if I was to spend more than a few days with him, I was lucky enough to come back, that he was going to kill me. So I ran from foster care, from Child Protective Services custody. Went missing AWOL for a year straight. My pimps had a lot of police officers, authority in their back pocket. When it comes to Child Protective Services, there's no oversight. There is no boss. There is an ombudsman. That ombudsman of Riverside County Child Protective Services custody, I called, my mom called, people called. We put in reports. We put in emails. I talked to her at one point and told her everything that was going on. She said she would help, and then she disappeared and got taken out of her position. A few weeks later, after I contacted her, I always knew that every time I told somebody who I was, whatever connections are in my life, there's a lot of holes to my life as well. Still I'm not sure of. But all the holes and connections to my story, I knew every time I introduced myself, somebody was always like, oh, it's you. And I didn't know what that meant. A lot of people knew me and I didn't know them. Nobody helped. People are quick to say that they will help. Money changes people. Promises change people. I've seen people, I've walked into a job, I've been high. I told them the truth. I'm 14 years old, I'm 15 years old. This is the truth, this is what's going on. And I've had people respond to me and tell me, you're the same age as my daughter and not for tonight. I've had people tell me some wild stuff on.
So there you have it. I mean, like, MK Ultra is definitely a thing. I don't think anybody's going to deny that. But I think even more so of us learning about it being a thing, I think it's more important now to understand ways in which they choose to control not just the celebrities, but control us in return. Because if you place these people up on a pedestal, you place them on an MK Ultra, and you're able to have them to do and sing and make music and support certain things that you know is detrimental to society, and you got all these people, preferably young people with impressionable minds, who look up to these people. You're creating a cycle. You control the masses a lot easier that way, right? That's why it's called television, right? You're telling a vision, right? A television program. They're programming us, right? These are things that I think about, right? Y'all up in the comment section, give me your thoughts. Were you familiar with MK Ultra? How do you feel about MK Ultra? I'd love to know your thoughts, man. Till next time. Peace. Oh yeah, Diddy got a podcast.